Welcome back to Mastering MHA, MBA, and to Chapter 6, Part 5. We have covered political systems and legal systems. But systems do not change themselves. People and organizations change them. In this part, we meet the 5 kinds of participants who shape the rules you have to live by. Political and legal systems evolve from the interplay among various societal institutions, at both the national and international levels. 5 types of participants are active in transforming them. Some of them you will negotiate with. Some of them will be working against you without ever meeting you. First, and most important, government. The government, or public sector, operates at national, state, and local levels. Governments have the power to enact and enforce laws. They strongly influence how firms enter host countries and how they conduct business once there. Governments regulate international business through a complex system of institutions, agencies, and public officials. In the United States, that includes the U.S. Trade Representative and the International Trade Administration. In Canada, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Finance, and the Export and Import Controls Bureau. Similar agencies operate in virtually every country. Second, international organizations. Supranational agencies such as the World Trade Organization, the United Nations, and the World Bank strongly influence international business. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, known as UNCTAD, helps oversee international trade and development in investment, finance, technology, and enterprise development. Organizations like these facilitate free and fair trade by providing administrative guidance, governing frameworks, and occasionally financial support. Third, regional trade organizations. Regional economic integration refers to the growing economic interdependence that results when 2 or more countries in a geographic region form an alliance to reduce barriers to trade and investment. The main examples are the European Union, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, formerly known as NAFTA, and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. These bodies aim to advance the economic and political interests of their members. The European Union is especially well developed, with its own executive, legislative, and bureaucratic bodies. It enacts and enforces laws that directly affect business. In 2018, it implemented the Markets in Financial Instruments Directive to better regulate financial markets and improve investor protections. It restricted banks' ability to charge fees and increased reporting requirements for brokers. Preparing for it was expected to cost the industry billions of dollars. Fourth, special interest groups. These operate to advance the goals of a particular community, and there are many of them, serving specific countries, industries, or causes. 2 well-known examples. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development supports the developmental and business goals of advanced economies, and the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, is a powerful cartel that controls global oil prices, which in turn affect consumer prices and the cost of doing business everywhere. Similar groups exercise control over sugar, coffee, and iron ore. Special interest groups also pursue causes, from labor rights to environmental protection. They often influence national political processes and produce outcomes with far-reaching consequences for business. In China, activists have pressured the government to reduce pollution from industrialization and fossil fuel use, and they win. In the United States, Greenpeace and other environmental groups opposed construction of the Keystone pipeline, fearing oil spills that would pollute groundwater and kill wildlife. Those groups were instrumental in halting the project. It helps to know who typically opposes what. Labor unions oppose imported goods and global sourcing. The U.S. United Steelworkers Union opposed imports of steel from China. Competing businesses dislike competition from foreign firms. Japanese rice producers opposed imports of rice from the United States. Customers may avoid foreign-made products or object to marketing practices. Motorists in Australia accused BP of unfair pricing of petroleum products. And conservationists fight wildlife loss and destruction of the natural environment. Environmentalists have opposed lumber imports from countries with tropical rainforests. Each of these groups can shape a market you are trying to enter before you ever arrive. Fifth, and easily underestimated, competing firms. Rival domestic firms with a strong presence in the host country naturally have an interest in opposing the entry of foreign firms, and they may lobby their government for protection. Host country competitors often complain when foreign firms receive financial support from a parent or host country government. Asterix, a French theme park, opposed French government support for US-based Disney when Disney established Disneyland Paris. But it is not always so simple. US automakers in Detroit opposed BMW's construction of a factory in South Carolina. Yet the state government of South Carolina supported the facility on the grounds that it would generate jobs and increase tax revenues. Governments are not one block. National, state, and local interests can point in opposite directions. That is the practical lesson of this part. When you enter a market, you are not negotiating with a country. You are entering an argument that is already in progress among governments at several levels, supranational bodies, regional blocs, interest groups, and your own future competitors. Here is how the balance among these participants has shifted. The World Trade Organization's appellate body, the final stage of its dispute process, has been unable to function since 2019 because appointments of new judges have been blocked. The number of cases brought to the WTO has fallen to roughly one-third of the level before the collapse, and most disputes are now appealed into a void, leaving them without legal force. So firms and states have gone regional instead. As of June 2026, 384 regional trade agreements were in force worldwide, and countries increasingly rely on their dispute settlement provisions to fill the gap the WTO left. Category 2 on our list is weakening. Category 3 is where the action moved. Let us recap Part 5. 5 participants shape political and legal systems. Governments at every level. International organizations like the WTO and the UN. Regional trade organizations like the EU and ASEAN. Special interest groups from OPEC to environmental campaigners, and competing firms that lobby to keep you out. This builds on our chapter notes from Cavaskill, Knight and Riesenberger's International Business. The New Realities on the Participants in Political and Legal Systems, updated with 2026 data on WTO dispute settlement and the growth of regional trade agreements. We know who writes the rules. In Part 6, we get to the sharp end. What happens when a government decides it wants your business, your factory, or your assets? If this is helping, subscribe, and we will see you there.